Morning, Carter. Isaac, good morning. What's up, Jordan? So market's up a bit on CPI.
Yep.
From sunny London. Is that an oxymoron? I'm not sure if London's all that sunny. Isn't it? Couldn't it be like rainy London? So the market's still not quite taking out these highs, but the longer we can continue to go sideways here for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, I think the better. There's not a ton of great looking setups, although, you know, as I say that, there's obviously a pretty clean trend in Ethereum. So I don't know. Don't know what to make of the action, honestly. I just don't have enough clean setups that I want to buy. If a stock is on MDY, so effectively a mid cap, I think when you kind of get to that point, instead of thinking at it as a small cap or what ETF it belongs to, which is obviously a pretty good idea, think about it more in terms of what group it's in. So it can be in the MDY, but it could also be, you know, like a banking name. It could be a software stock. And it's really good to differentiate what group it is in, right? Not what ETF it trades in. Obviously, there are like select ETFs like biotech ETF and the home builders ETF and cybersecurity ETF. So that's fine. But I wouldn't just say, I won't buy XYZ stock. It's in the S&P 500. Right? Because the S&P 500 is a collection of different groups. So kind of try to go a little bit more in depth and say what group of the S&P 500 is it in? Because there are times that manufacturing names might be up, or semiconductors might be up, or home builders might be up, or banking names might be up, and they're all parts of the S&P 500. So certain groups could be working well while others are just kind of taking a pause. Anything on your radar this morning?
Tesla is right at previous highs from yesterday, so that's a good reaction already. ASTS is up 13%. We'll see how, like, if that has a kind of morning pullback and then recapture VWAP, you could take that. Because Rocket Lab had that good shakeout yesterday after squatting on earnings. So maybe that group isn't completely done. We've just consolidated.
I thought I saw ASTS had some news this morning. Rocket Lab got a price target increase up from $27 to 47, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was just earnings last night for ASTS. I think there was something else not entirely sure. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Could be wrong.
And then TME, the leader in China, reported earnings this morning, up 5%. What a monster stock that is.
Shares gain on launch plan. 13% in pre-market trading after the satellite firm set out an ambitious plan to launch 45 to 60 satellites during 2025 and 2026. The firm said it also received 2 additional early-stage contracts for the U.S. government. Got it. So it's just part of their earnings.
Yeah. So initial responses gap up. We'll see if that's used for liquidity like other earnings gaps.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's like I see, Michael, you just mentioned Circle, CRCL, and SE. And that's totally fine. I'm happy to see that they're gapping up, but I wouldn't be a buyer of any gap ups right now. That's odd.
NASDAQ's already right at highs again.
Yeah, right at yesterday's highs. Yeah, what's up, babe? Yeah, yep. That's from the neighbor. That is from the neighbor. NVIDIA at highs, Meta at yesterday's highs, Ethereum breaking through yesterday's highs. That's definitely been the crypto of strength because look at Bitcoin, completely unaffected by this move. Not going at all. Literally not budging. Yeah, so Michael, as I was saying with a SE or Circle, is I wouldn't be buying these gap ups at all because of how many times we've seen a gap up stuff. Now, does this gap up just go and then continue? I think that would be a nice change of character for the amount of stocks that we've seen gap up and then completely fade off. So instead of, me kind of guessing that, SE's earnings were awesome, let me get involved in it day one. I've seen too many names, just like Rocket Lab, a name that we were just talking about, where you gap up on earnings and it's like you're looking really good in the morning. You're even looking good on this push. And then all of a sudden, it just sells off completely by the end of the day. So I instead would prefer to be playing continuation setups. So let them gap up, let them either build a new little base. And it could be something as simple as fix, right? Where they gap up on earnings and then they just kind of hang around, or even something like BWXT, right? I think that's even, that's fine too. but just kind of coming for it on day one. Uh, I don't know. I'm pretty weary about that, honestly. Just for the sheer amount of names we've seen gap up and crap. I'm sure Nick would agree on that.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at some names that are gapping up as just potential shorts that have already made a run up and now are gapping up even more.
Or into a resistance gap, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Felipe says, in a swing context, when we talk to search stocks from strong groups, strong sectors, for example, in Finviz Green, are you focused on strong this week or strong this month or strong this quarter? Yeah, Felipe, I don't want to focus on strong this week because strong this week over the last year and a half, solars have been strong this week multiple times this week, over the course of a week, which could just very well mean that it's a short squeeze, right? Or it's a very short lived move higher for a week. I want to focus more on 1 month or 3 month or even as far as 6 months, right? Like, and one of the ways that I like to do it is what stocks. So when you're kind of go back as far as like 6 months, right? And then you'll like notice a group and it might be somewhere in the middle of the pack and you'll be like, oh, okay, semiconductors. And then when you look at the 3 month list, they'll be like in the top quarter. And then when you look at the 1 month list, they'll be in the top 10. And what you're kind of seeing is that they're strengthening over time. They're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And obviously at this point, you should start to see some pretty nice technicals on it. And then you take it one step further and say, which ones have some of the best fundamentals, accelerating sales, accelerating earnings, and then a technical setup you understand. And here's the reality, dude. Technical setup isn't nearly as important as buying it when the group is acting well. Technicals help you kind of cherry pick a spot where you could be like, hey, I think this has got upwards momentum. I'm going to set my stop 5% lower. That's how I limit my risk when I get in. But if you're buying something that's in a good group, that's how you're most likely to, catch a nice trend. It has to be in a good group. If it's in a crappy group, you're kind of using your brain for all the wrong reasons, like trying to be like, oh, it's gotten too cheap. It's gotten too this. Not something I really want to do. So, yeah, focus on group. Thoughts on MSOS EP? I don't know that this is an EP, man. I just think that, you just, because there was no real news yesterday that has changed the trajectory of weed names where they're going to start making way more money. They're just being potentially reclassified. So I don't know that this is an EP, but it's nice to see, right? Get a nice pickup in volume back over the 200 simple moving average. And it's not the only thing doing that. It's, I saw Tilray, I saw CGC. Isn't there something called weed that was also going? So, yeah, it's nice to see, but I don't know that I would classify this as an EP.
Quite the volume in that move yesterday.
Yeah, massive. Did you see like Tilray?
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, 200 plus million shares, 268 million shares. Nice to see, but I don't know if the story of cannabis names have changed too much in terms of like how their underlying business is going to be affected. And here's the thing. If it has been, I don't need to own it here. If it's going that much higher, what will they do? They'll go sideways. They'll tighten up. They'll pull back against an ascending moving average. And you could look to buy it from that kind of a setup. But, like showing up to buy, for instance, MSOS, after kind of a 90% move in the last 16 trading days. No thanks. Let it tighten. Yesterday, I said at the end of this basically stream that market environment is more important than the setup. Can I expand a little bit more? I found it very interesting and have watched the same thing. Have traded a few high volume closes the last 2 weeks and haven't seen much traction. You think the problem's environment? Yes, absolutely. Think back to last quarter when you had a name like Sezzle and Dave, right? And how that acted on their earnings gap ups, right? You get the gap, you get a little bit of a trend before earnings, you get a gap up on earnings on a huge pickup in volume, and then all of a sudden you're just in a steady trend from a high volume close, right? Dave did the exact same thing. Oddity did the exact same thing. But what started to happen is once you got to this quarter, after the market has made a 40% move higher, the NASDAQ I'm talking about, which generally speaks about the general market. If we look at the S&P 500, I want to say it was like a 30% move, right? So when we just think about the general market, it had already made this really big move off lows, right? Talking 30% for the S&P 500 in 3.5 months. And then you come into earnings season and you start to see a NOW, you start to see a Duolingo, you start to see and it's like the more you looked, a PanW, FTNT, SMCI, Coinbase, even Apple on earnings. I mean, Amazon on earnings. And the more you look, the more you realize like names are either gapping down on earnings in a big way, or TTD, another example, or they're gapping up and then they're just selling off, right? And like software names. Obviously, I talked about NOW, a really good example because this one was one of the first earnings names that I remember. Last month on the 24th, you get a slight little gap up. You think it looks all good, and then it closes on lows. Gives you this really little digestion near the lows, breaks the 200 simple moving average, and you're rolling over, right? So yes, environment plays a huge role. Like you could literally go to last quarter and really middle of April. And at the time, I remember my eyes were focused on Netflix, Hood, Palantir, Uber, SE, Rubrik, Zscaler, CrowdStrike, Spotify, effectively all the strongest names in the market that refused to break March's lows in April when the market went lower. So now you're already focused on the stocks that are acting strongest when the market's still making new lows. And then the minute that the market gave you a follow through day, which I want to say was it the 22nd, Nick?
Let me check.
I want to say it was the 22nd. We had this terrible breath day.
Yeah.
21st. Yeah. 22nd.
23rd. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even the 23rd. I thought 22nd because you had this terrible breath day on the 21st. I remember this day clear as day. And while the market was going down 5 days in a row, look at what a Palantir was doing on the 21st and 22nd, right? On the 21st, this thing's just in a bull flag and the market's going down 5 days in a row. And then you get follow through on the market on the 22nd. And then all of a sudden, Palantir's off to the races. Netflix on the 21st, when the market was going down, was already giving you decent earnings and a push higher. It still closed green, but the market was having a nasty down day and Netflix was going up while the market was going down, right? So there are already stocks that were bucking the market trend. The moment that the market gave you a follow through day, you already know you're not dealing with a market downtrend anymore because you're getting a follow through day. You don't know if it's going to be a valid follow through day or not. But then all of a sudden your environment has changed and you could have just closed your eyes, picked any one of the strongest names in the market, Spotify, Netflix, CrowdStrike, Rubrik, Zscaler, SE, Palantir, Hood, you name it. And by the way, a lot of those names turned out to make really big moves. A handful of them, if you kind of did the whole shotgun approach and took a little bit of all of them as they were working for you, even NVIDIA gave you a higher low setup at 99.5, and it's doubled since then. So AVGO was another one that stuck out like a sore thumb, right? It's just like they were so strong even on market down days, they were going sideways. On market up days, they were going higher. On market down days, they were green. So yeah, when your environment has changed, you could basically just close your eyes, throw a dart at the board, and you're going to be green. And those are the environments you really want to be trading in. That's like when setups matter, so you could have like a level of defined risk. And then once you got to end of May into June, when you had just V-shaped recovered and gone vertical, things started to get choppy, really choppy. Yes, still an uptrend, but you look at the S&P 500, like once you got into here, this was kind of like hell. It's like you're just every day, one up day, one down day, one up day, one down day, a little gap down, next day green. Like getting positioned in this sucked. Therefore, buying stocks after a correction is the easiest time to buy stocks. And Nick, what were you? Were you on you were on vacation, weren't you? I feel like you were on vacation.
Yeah.
During some of this craziness.
Yeah, that's okay. You're going to miss some of the move, but if it's a real move, you'll have plenty of time to trade to the upside.
Yeah, and I still believe that this is a very good bull market, but I'm running out of setups.
Yeah, there's no like clean bases outside of what we're seeing in China, like China names, and that usually doesn't carry the market higher.
I mean, BABA does look pretty damn good, but it's gotta get moving here pretty soon. And then you've got TME. TME is not going to carry the market higher. Semiconductors need 24. Holy sh!
Yeah, it's a monster.
What's QFIN looking like? Ugh, QFIN not looking too good.
GDS and FUTU are the other two.
Yeah,
names.
FUTU. I thought at 127, FUTU looked great.
Yeah.
Right in this little, coming out of this little flag, the 7th or the 8th. Very nice. Rocket Lab starting to look like a bottom here. Rocket Lab hurts a little bit, man. You think this is a bottom here? I own this thing at 6. You think where we're at right now is a bottom? This was a bottom, dude. Where we're at now, you think this is a bottom? I think it's a little wide and loose, right? This price action, although you're tightening up, had the gap up on earnings, a failure, tried to wash out yesterday, reclaimed. This is just sloppy. I won't come into Rocket Lab today just because they got a price target increase. That just seems like that's like buying a stock because they've been included into the S&P 500. How'd that work out for TTD holders?
Yeah, and with ASTS gapping up already, like Rocket Lab should have already gone. But in this market where gap ups are getting sold into, let's see if ASTS actually comes under a little bit of pressure while RKLB can have just a tight day or two. And then you can have a pivot to actually trade from instead of the shakeout lows yesterday are so wide.
Yeah, well, if you go from effectively earnings highs to lows, I mean, you're talking a 17%. No thanks. No thanks. Like, there's nothing tight here. When it was tight? 8.7. Like, if you were coming out of this candle and you were nice and tight and then the chart stuck and went higher, amazing. But it didn't. It gapped up on earnings, completely failed, tried to follow through, completely failed. You don't know what direction this thing wants to go in, even if you think you know what direction this thing wants to go in. So we're not in the market right now where you have to be in a rush to own anything. Just be patient. Really, just be patient is my thinking. There's just not enough clean setups. That's just really the problem. Like, even, NVIDIA, I talked about this on last night's watch list video, Nick, where it's like you see this steady grind higher, the 20-day. This is very, very reminiscent of Apple in 2023. Let me go back and show you.
Yep.
In fact, let me unlink these really quick and then let's take a peek at it again. Let me go daily. I mean, are these the same charts or are these the same charts?
It makes sense. Apple was the largest company in 2023, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
Microsoft. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Apple.
So that's just structure of the market. Like
That's
it
how
takes more
charts
and more
move.
money to move.
This is just how charts move. They can just trend above the 20-day for forever. Seemingly until it doesn't and it cracks. And Apple cracked on earnings, and then it had to build a whole new base, right? So could it just be that Nvidia ends up playing out somewhat similar? I and it's funny because even look at where Apple kind of started from when it took off, right? Just below the 200. Where did Nvidia start? Just below, but before it took off, just below the 200. A reclaim. Apple had a little bit longer of a consolidation right through here, and then ultimately, Nvidia's was a little bit shorter. This environment was in my opinion, a whole lot stronger because in 2023 we didn't have a 40% correction or really shoot higher off the lows. This environment has been absolutely gangbusters, and people are like now hitting us with all the this is going to make 2000 and 1999 look like child's play comparisons, which by the way, it's just like I know you're late to the party, but there's no need to start throwing around 1999 and 2000 just because you want things to go higher. What is going to drag us higher? Is it going to be a bunch of extended stocks? I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if we're going to continue higher, we need to see software names stop breaking down, cybersecurity names stop breaking down, half of the semis actually getting strong. And these liquidity events with either earnings or news, instead of using that liquidity to sell off and free up capital, we need them to be accumulating shares.
I mean, look at
And
this CRM.
it's not
We're
happening.
not talking about a crappy company here, dude. We're talking about a behemoth in Salesforce. This is a stage 4 decline where the 200's rolling over.
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't look good at all. And I could be hopeful that this 200 curling over could just be the end of the decline. But do I have to pull up Enphase? I'm not going to compare Salesforce to Enphase, but nobody knows how bad things can get. So yeah, that's my thinking. How am I managing my exposure risk with Tesla position? Well, I bought it at 325. I didn't add any yesterday because I thought buying more on the fourth up day in a row was kind of silly. I was kind of looking at that 338 level, but I just didn't feel comfortable adding. I just bought it as soon as it was breaking through the 200 simple moving average. And I was using low of day on the day that I bought it. And for now, I'm not trying to trim Tesla at all. It's like one of those names where if you can grab a hold of it at the right spot and it puts you in the green, yes, you can give back some gains quickly, but it could be one of those where the market still wants to price in robo-taxi, it still wants to price in humanoid robots, it still wants to price in the Elon Musk effect, which is, could be worth a lot. Like, we don't know. The guy's a super engineer, super genius, and when this stock moves and trends, it can trend out of a little digestion really well. And I don't know about you, but I want to catch a 200-point move with all of my shares if possible, and then trim into extensions from the 50-day. I don't want to get too cute with trimming on day 2 and 3. I'd rather give back unrealized gains. But at this point, it's going to be a green trade no matter what, because my stop is at flat. So the trade's done for me now. Leave the stop at flat, let it work on the daily. Ideally, in a few days, I'll be using the 10 and 20 day. And then if everything gets clean, I mean, look at how tight these moving averages are. It looks like spaghetti here, which means we are very, very tight. And, I'd like to see it break out in a kind of a clean way where we just trend nicely for a few months. And I feel like Tesla's one of those names where sometimes you'll notice it's going up when the market's going down or doing nothing, right? Like people just love trading this thing with options and all sorts of stuff. And once it gets rolling, man. It really does. So we'll see.
It's basically had a 4-year base after topping in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this thing does. Look at like a monthly chart on like a 10-year here.
Yeah.
Big move up, huge amount of sideways. So if this thing gets rolling, I mean, look at how tight this monthly is here. It makes me think September, October, November, December might be nice months for Tesla. Or maybe not. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, yeah, from contraction comes expansion. We hope it's in the up direction. You position with that and you have your stop and then you roll the dice. But so far the expansion's to the upside.
It's all we can ask for, right?
Yeah.
Nick, what are your thoughts on Iron?
Tough one to trade. Yeah, the reversal yesterday was a little ugly. The day to buy it was on the 6th. Like you had a little push into the moving averages after a shakeout on the 1st, and then you had a gap up and then took out the highs. That's your like wedge pop day on the 6th. So if you didn't buy it there, like for me, I am just waiting for it to like tighten up. Yesterday we had a volatility burst and not in a good way. So for me, it's not a buy here. If you're holding from the 6th, I think that's fine. You could use like the 10-day moving average or whatever for your stop.
Or if you're holding from down here, the 24th.
Well, yeah.
You could just hold it as well. You know which one kind of stood out to me yesterday? It was Wolf.
Yeah.
So a little pickup in volume, still kind of against the pivot, but off the back of earnings a few days ago where it tried to wash out and then pushed higher. I can't be too much of a hater on Wolf. The problem is I view these, these are still like data center, which has been their only like saving grace recently because they haven't really been moving off the back of quote unquote Bitcoin, as much just because of the halving. It's almost like Bitcoin's trading at 60,000 for a bunch of these names. A lot of them haven't improved their hash rate and they're not getting as much Bitcoin as they were before the last halving. They're getting half as much, and Bitcoin hasn't really gone up in price in terms of some big appreciation in the last is it year? I mean, it hasn't gone up 100%. Well, I guess it kind of has, hasn't it? Since the last halving. Anybody remember when the last halving was? It's up a little less than 100%. Wasn't it last year in April or something like that?
I think so. Let's see. Yeah, April 20th, 2024.
Sometimes a group performance is influenced by only a couple of big stocks. Yeah, and a stock is most likely to make a big move if it's in a healthy group. Top 40 at the very least is usually what I think. AEVA, one of Nick's longs. I doubt he owns this one.
I put it on the long watch list yesterday for like a snapback. Yeah, because it had that gap up on Friday and then tested that gap zone yesterday. So that was like the potential buy point for the extension.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So do you take it off of the close or the low?
The low. Like once you get into that gap zone, if it's going to continue like
so the low to
down,
the open the next day, right?
Yep. Well, sorry. The close of day one to the low of day two.
Got
That's
it.
the gap.
Got it. So it would
And then
look,
we traded in that area yesterday,
so your
and it was
zone kind of looks
supported.
something like this.
Yep.
Cool. Interesting. Well, after this many down days in a row, I could definitely see a snapback, maybe right back to gap fill or the 20-day.
That's exactly the trade. Yep.
I like it.
Yeah. Instead of like trying to trade something that's been choppy, like this has been linear in both directions. And now you get to a level where it has stopped like going down, and we've seen like supportive action at a gap zone. So you have some evidence to trade it for the snapback there. But long term, no. Like this chart is done.
It looks cooked, doesn't it? It's going to
Cooked.
take
Yeah.
a while. It'll take a while to shape up again.
Yeah. Like all those speculative names, like they get destroyed. And then even like SBET or BMNR, they've had those like big moves back up, but they're lower highs and then they get flushed again.
Should I be taking new positions now or wait for an index pullback? I'm getting sliced to pieces out here. Well, if you're getting sliced to pieces out here, I got two bits of advice. One, trade smaller size. Two, if you're going to take longs, look for pullbacks against descending moving averages to limit your risk. And then also, I mean, that's literally the best advice I got. You're either going to be taking longs off of ascending moving averages in good groups when they're tight, avoid stocks that are extended from the 50-day. That's the best advice, man. You can't really be buying breakouts. If you've been paying attention and you're out here buying earnings gap ups, you might as well take a lighter, take your $100 bill, set it on fire. You might find a little bit more enjoyment than playing it in the stock market right now, honestly, because that's what you're doing. You cannot be buying earnings gap ups. And then there are really not many stocks out here giving follow through from high volume closes. Outside of Reddit, I can't find a single name really outside of Nick. What other names outside of Reddit? Let's exclude Reddit for a second. What other have shown follow through from earnings? Reddit and Palantir, exclude them. What else?
We talked Celsius a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, hardly follow through.
But yeah, like the number that are following through the downside far overweight the ones to the upside.
I'd say like 10-1, 20-1. I mean, you're either gapping down, you're gapping up and getting stuffed, or you're gapping up and then going nowhere like FIX or BWXT or Shopify, or they're just not moving. Right? Very few names are following through from earnings gap ups. There's like only one Reddit out here, and it's Reddit. So, yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. Size your positions down. If you can't gain traction on a 5% portfolio position, meaning if you have a 100K account and you're taking like a $5,000 position on a new trade, if you can't gain traction on a 5K position, there should be no reason for 10K positions. I mean, and if you can't gain traction on 5K positions, I would drop it down to 3. You just want to feel and see some traction and be like, what? Either I'm doing something wrong, and normally that's not the case. It's the market that's not being friendly, or you're just chasing stocks that are overextended, or you're looking at stocks in the wrong group, or you're trying to find bottom on names that are getting smoked on earnings like Sezzle. I had somebody yesterday in here on live stream goes, Ariel, we should be looking for the bottom on Sezzle. And then I showed the example of DEC, right? Guys, you gap down on earnings like this, on a huge pickup in volume, you leave it alone. You gap down on earnings on a huge pickup in volume. There is no Ariel. We should be looking for the bottom on this thing, because sometimes there is no bottom on these things. right?
Yeah, it's different. It's different if it gaps down and then immediately gets bought up, like something like BE. Like that's showing demand. When
Yes.
you gap down and just flush, that means everyone is running for the doors,
Yeah.
and it's going to take time for the big guys to get out of a position that trades that thin as Sezel or Dave.
And here's the thing too, Nick. Like gap downs that are instantly bought up, they need a day 2 of being bought up. One up day on a pickup in volume means nothing. And I gave this comparison the other day. Look at RCL, right? You get the gap down and you think, oh, it's getting bought up. I need day 2, right? You give me one day pickup in volume off of a gap down, and then all of a sudden you roll over, you get the inside day, and then all of a sudden you're down, 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 right? You know what
Yep.
other name did this? Toast, right? You get the gap down, you get another bounce, but effectively an inside day, and then just like RCL, down, 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 right? It's like you're probably going lower. So it's when you are thinking they gap down and they get bought up, I need to see day 2. You know who did give me day 2? AMD, right? You gap down, pick up in volume, and then follow through to the upside. So yeah, it's just and why I think AMD was able to snap back a little bit better. Well, it's in a hell of a lot better group. Semiconductors is much better, right? AMD has undergone a huge character change back above the 200 simple moving average. So yeah, you looks great. Uranium fuels or whatever. Yeah, but it's still extended from the 50, if I'm not mistaken. Not as bad. It's not as extended. This one will only work, in my opinion, if MP goes on to work more, because that's the only reason that it perked up to begin with. It's moving as a rare earth play. It's not moving on earnings. It's moving off the fact that MP is up. That's it. It's the only reason. And if I looked at MP, there's no reason for this thing to continue higher without some clean kind of a digestion, which it hasn't had.
I hope we get the Palantir gap up and push today, and then gap up the next day for the short.
I just hope we get the rollover today. And
oh yeah, I forgot you had a position already. My bad. Not trying to talk down your positions.
No, you're good. You're good, dude. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. How does APLD look? You know what I like about APLD? Every time this thing upticks, it's on a huge uptick in volume. But they're not really a special company, dude. They build data centers. They're not even really a data center play. Like they're a data center construction company. Like, they were supposed to be a data center play. But now apparently they build data centers. Like they're the construction company, I don't know. I mean, they look fine. They look fine. I think they've also got something to do with data centers themselves, but I mean, nice recent change in character. I just know a little bit too much about this company to actually fall in love with them. I know they're a B. Riley pump, and well, if you guys look at Riley Financial, you guys will know all about why I don't like Applied Digital. Fugazi, pixie dust, won't be here in a couple years. So, but yeah, it looks, for now, I don't really see a spot I would buy this thing personally. Nothing yet. Wait for it to pull into ascending moving averages and then start to turn up off that level on the daily chart. All right. If it decides to go higher from here, then, so be it. But yeah, no real pop there for Bitcoin with the market. That was kind of odd.
Joby's still red this morning.
Sure is.
You'd think that would pop up. That loses the 20-day. It can really flush here.
Well, it technically rejected the 20 simple yesterday. I know some people use the exponential, but this thing was rejecting the 20 simple a handful of times yesterday. We'll
Yeah,
see.
that lined up with the 10-day exponential, whatever you want to call it. But
Tomato, dude.
yes, sir.
It's all about, like I said, it's more so about environment than it is about what little fancy, colored line there is on the screen. If the market's rolling over and the group is rolling over, it could be rejecting the 50-day, the 10-day, the 20-day, prior day low, prior day high, losing VWAP. There's a gazillion ways to get in these things. It's just, what's the market doing at the time you decide to execute? Somebody just asked, how do you think MP looks? Extended. Needs a new base. Extended needs a new base. Is it a good move to stop loss with TTD, or could it recover? This doesn't mean you're holding TTD, right? You're not holding TTD, I hope. At least not from this earnings gap down. I hope to God you're not, Fola. If you are, God bless your soul. There's no reason to be owning this stock at all. I would have stop lost this thing in after hours. I would have stop lost this thing in after hours when it was gapping down. I would have hit the exit button as quickly as I could in here. But, most people, they're watching this and they freeze up because there's no excuse to not try and sell this as it's getting absolutely murdered. You can't really freeze up like that. And I know some people will say, well, I wasn't watching it. I wasn't at my screens. Then you shouldn't be owning stocks into earnings.
Yeah. Or position sized enough where one
It
earnings
matters.
will really matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Or how about better yet, owning any stock that's not above an uptrending 200 simple moving average.
These are good rules.
Did you guys see the move on TKO after the UFC news? Well, I didn't see the UFC news.
They partnered with Paramount.
Got it. Oh, yeah, huge move by TKO. Yeah, I just can't come in and buy this thing here, right? I don't buy things after gigantic green candles like that. I'd have to let it tighten a little bit. Yeah, good point about TTD on the S&P 500 inclusion. Yeah, same thing with Datadog. You wonder when Datadog was included into the S&P 500? How about right here?
Or SMCI.
Yeah. Oh my God, SMCI. That's the S&P 500 has some swing and misses. Well, let's just put it like that. All right, some real swing and misses lately.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to be fired over there. I don't know who's making these decisions. Think uranium names going to lose their ranges? Well, here's the crazy part. Uranium names have been going higher, and uranium is actually red on the year. And what I don't know that many people know this, but uranium is U308. So if you're tracking U308 prices or U308, then I believe that's what it is. You would see that it's actually red this year, which is very, very surprising for like a company like CCJ when this thing has been acting as well as it has, and the thing that they get out of the ground, refine, process is actually going down. That's like the equivalent of ExxonMobil seeing crude oil go down on the year and their stock is up. I don't know what's CCJ up all year long. So, it's up 50%, right? That's like ExxonMobil being up 50% on the year while crude oil is red. It just doesn't make a lot of logical sense. But, a lot of things in this world don't make a lot of logical sense. I try to not think about it too much, but it is true. So Apple inside day buyable. Nick, what do you think about that?
It's still extended for me. Like we'll probably see money rotate to Apple towards the end of this move, but a couple more days at least.
Yeah, I'm not buying this.
It's
You
also
a
slow.
behemoth goes up 13%, gives a little inside day, and I'm supposed to expect what more? Nah, can't do it. What's Nick's Twitter? Nick, what is your Twitter?
Nick
Just Nick
Drendel.
Drendel. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick
Maybe
Drendel.
we could toss that in the title on the mornings that I do it with you.
That we can do that. I'll put it in like the little scrolly bar.
Go.
What are the thoughts on Wriggle? RIGL. Yeah. What the hell is this? Got very tight down here. Got super tight, but there's no buying this thing. Also, it's super illiquid. I mean, this thing trades $13 million a day, and that's after this move up. That's no thanks, dude. I wouldn't want to own names that I can move myself. You shouldn't want to either. Thoughts on Celsius? Nice comeback after earnings. I don't think it's viable here either. It would need to tighten up against an ascending moving average, create a new base, high type flag, some kind of a pennant, something, pull back into an ascending moving average. BBAI looks decent. All right, Ray Charles, sounds good.
I was gonna say, isn't this down
Marcos,
30%
come
this
on,
morning?
man. What do you mean BBAI looks good? Did you not see what the hell happened to this thing last night for after hours? It looks good. You must have your after hours data turned off. It just got a 30% colonoscopy last night. How's it look now?
Rough.
Oh man. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you that, but it's like you gotta look at after hours, brother. You gotta look at after hours. If you don't look at after hours, then you have no clue what's going on. Thoughts on BMNR 2 extended? It was viable a few days ago, coming out of this little bit of consolidation / digestion right in here. Right, it was viable on 8.6. From here, it's not viable, in my opinion.
We had the highest volume ever yesterday on a lower high too, which is usually not a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how much Ethereum keeps going, but I wouldn't be buying it here. Yeah, Shop holding up a bit, but so are a lot of names. A lot of names are holding up a bit. They're just not going anywhere. A-Lab's holding up. App is holding up. Shop is holding up. Yeah, MBIS is holding up. There are names holding up, right? There definitely are. But there are so many more names breaking down, and it's good to make sure that you're paying attention to that, right? You want to be operating. The best time to buy stocks is after a market correction. Guys, this day absolutely flew by. I appreciate you guys all, as always, for being here. I got to get ready for stream. Nick will be there. But yeah, we will see you guys all bright and early in the morning tomorrow. Thanks for being on, Nick, as always, just chit-chatting.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Maybe later this week as well, we'll have you on.
Yep.
So, all right, brother. Thank you, man.
Take care.
Later.